take another terrifying journey into the world of mystery, suspense, and terror. Let's turn off all the lights, lock the doors and windows, sit back and enjoy this evening's chilling tale.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning that dial to the Eek channel. My name is James, and today I am joined by my co-host,
Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. You?
It's great.
Great.
We have a fun episode for you today. We have a couple hot stories. One being the new Five Nights at Freddy's game. Has entered early access. We'll get into those details a little later, and then also I got a little ghost true ghost story for us, kind of thing. Just thought we'd introduce something just to add a little bit more weirdness when we don't have a lot of horror news. We'll just say these are real things that maybe should be a horror movie, but aren't.
Oh,
But could be.
but maybe they are.
Maybe.
Maybe we are.
No. I actually have a little story about that. Not this past Halloween, but last year's Halloween. I had kind of an interesting thing happen where I just came home one day, and I have an older house that we have like a really big front porch, but like our parking is behind the house, so we never really use the front door ever. So like basically only like guests or like people selling us shit use the front door. Like we never use the front door.
Or local kids just sitting on your porch.
That happens a lot. I don't know. Maybe I just don't put enough stuff on my porch, so they just think nobody lives here.
You should just put like popcorn out one of these days. You just be real hospitable.
Well, I came home one day, and I actually, for some reason, parked in front of the house and came in the front door, and I'm walking up, and there is a Ghostface Scream mask just setting on the steps leading up to my porch. And it's like, I have like two sets of steps coming up to the porch. Like there's the one that's like connected to the public sidewalk, and then you get up there, and then we have our own little private like sidewalk that I have to maintain myself, and then that goes to like our actual steps to get onto the front porch. The mask was not on the steps next to the public sidewalk. It was on like the steps right next to my front door.
I'm amazed you made it to this Halloween. That's all I'm saying, dog.
There was a little part of me, like, first I kind of chuckled. I was like, oh, cool, look, Scream mask. And then I was like, wait a minute. What kid just leaves a Halloween mask laying around somewhere? And then I'm like, I think I may have a target painted on my house.
I mean, you're the spookiest house in the block.
Yep, we win.
Boom.
Is that it? Do we win or do we lose? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We do have a special guest that we're going to call in today. These are the creators of a new graphic novel, potential graphic novel series called The Zombie Game. And we're going to give them a call right about now. Come on, T-Mobile.
Bum, 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 bum. Well, why is that in my head?
I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah. I believe in you.
We're connected, but we don't have audio. Hang on a second here. We'll figure this out.
Oh, no problem.
Hey, there we go. There's something.
There was that. Oh, we're not plugged in back there.
Oh.
Boop.
You
Plug me into the smartphone thing? Plug me into that smartphone thing.
Oh, God. Is it this one?
The little tiny. It's the only one that fits. Hi, hello. This is James with the Eek Channel.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it is going really good. I also have my co-host Alex here. Alex, say hello.
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 Hi, Alex.
Oh, hi. There's two.
There is two. So I know we have Emily on, and I wasn't sure who our other guest would be. Is this Pablo?
No, my name's Dan.
He
Okay.
is the original writer.
Gotcha. I was trying to piece together everything. So I guess before we get into all that, go ahead and just tell us
Yeah.
who you guys are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Dan Bridges. I'm a screenwriter and a former actor and stuntman, and yeah, I work at an independent movie theater called Lumley Movie Theaters out here.
That's cool.
Yeah. We do lots of indie films right now. We're doing. I mean, we have of course The Irishman, but we did Mandy for when that came out. That
Nice.
limited run. Yeah. So things like that. And I'm from Southern California. I was born in San Diego and lived in Lake Arrowhead. If you've ever heard of that place.
All right.
And Dan is my husband.
Yeah.
So we are we're an officially married duo. And I came from the wilds of Massachusetts, and I currently work in post-production for a digital company. So I do movie stuff, and on the side, we're developing this graphic novel because I used to work for like Boom Studios, and I did the convention circuit for a long time and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about the zombie game.
So, how deep do you want me to go? Because like literally, like, well, I mean, because like the whole idea of zombies and the whole idea is like I came at it in a very different way. I got a lot of inspiration from like like the newest book. I don't know if you've read it or not, but The Girl with All the Gifts.
Yeah.
That kind of, not the movie, because I wasn't a big fan, but the graphic, the actual novel I thought was like incredible. And I was, I was searching for a way to kind of, and one of the best things I think about horror and it's kind of the same way as sci-fi is you can kind of, and Romero did this a lot, and is that you're using like, social commentary in, in this way. And I was able to kind of tweak this idea that I had to create this. And basically it started off as a film script, and then it ended up, Emily was like, hey, this would be an amazing graphic novel. And then we found this incredible, it was insane how good this guy was.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, let's just do this and put this thing together and see what comes of it.
Nice.
So it's a story about a group of college kids who go to an end of the world party, and they find themselves trapped in a live action game. And each level of the game is a classic zombie movie.
Nice.
Classic, zombie set.
Yeah.
So the first one is the first set is like the CDC, and the second scenario is like the farmhouse. So each level is like a classic movie set.
Right.
And then each level of the game, the first three levels, the zombies change. So like when you're, one of the things I dislike about zombie movies is as soon as you understand the type of zombie, then it's kind of like in that middle part of it, or that middle part where you're like, oh, we just have to run really fast against these zombies, or we just have to like run over here and make noise over there and they'll go that way. And so I liked the idea of somebody being able to manipulate these people or this kind of situation where you can create your own monster. And I love zombies. So like the first level is the Romero zombies. So they're slow and they're and then the second level is the 28 days later zombies, and they're faster. And then, so each level is progressively more difficult. Yeah.
That is super interesting. You definitely have my attention. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of it that I was trying to manipulate or something is that this whole idea of, because zombies being like fodder or us.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing about like the 1% and live action video games and scary rooms and escape rooms and stuff like that. And I said, what if people had an unlimited amount of money to play these games with us? And I kind of look at it and it's like political. It's like Epstein and all these people that are kind of terrible people. It's like, what if they had this access to like somebody's like, hey, I have a game for you. And I love that idea. And so you take that with zombies, and then you're able to create whatever monster you kind of want through this. And then, you put it in this kind of live action video game. And then the people that are actually who you're following are people that are immune to the drug. So you have these gamers that are actually playing, so they're incredibly rich, and they're zombie hunters basically. And then these other people are in this game that they didn't realize they were going to, and people are turning into zombies, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And now they're playing again to survive themselves, while also like the gamers are playing that they know kind of that it's a game, and meta levels. And stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's there's a lot of layers there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yes, and we'll continue to talk about it until he is eliminated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome though. It sounds really, really cool. I'm excited to check out a little bit more. Okay, so one thing that we love to do around here, whenever we have people on, I love just talking to people about kind of their horror origin story. So like maybe it was something you were exposed to really young, or maybe you came into horror movies and games and books much later in life or something like that. But kind of, and each of you can even answer individually, kind of where does sort of your journey with spooky shit start?
Yeah. Well, first off, apologies if you hear heavy breathing in the background. That's our dog.
I thought it was me. Okay. Good.
He constantly terrifies us. So there you go. Yeah. So I actually hated horror movies growing up.
Okay.
And when I saw The Ring in 2002, the remake, horror movies like finally clicked for me. I finally understood that it could be like a mystery, and like you're solving something, and then here's like a scary twist at the end. And for me, because I was terrified. Like I saw Scream when it came out originally, and I had nightmares about like being stabbed at school and people coming into your house. Like horror movies were not for me. But once I saw that movie, and hey, it's Gore Verbinski, like, it's good. It's not as good as the original, but for me, it just put those place that like idea that you could see the scary thing and get like the adrenaline rush, but it was still like a mystery that you had to figure out.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's kind of a little different. I grew up a little, and a little earlier than that. So kind of what happened is you had all the like great horror movies. I guess you had like the 70s and stuff like that. And I was I was way too young for those. And so I got into like when I was a teenager and all that other kind of stuff was when horror movies almost became campy.
Yeah.
Where horror movies were like kind of, and it was campy and it was funny. And then it was like Michael Myers 13 and, Hockey Mask. And it was like over the top, and you were just kind of like, oh, okay. And so I wasn't really into it. And then horror kind of changed into, and then it morphed into like gore porn.
Right.
And I was like Hostel, and I was kind of like taken aback by that because it wasn't really my thing. And then, like I said, like 28 Days Later, Saw, and the Girl with All the Gifts. And when you I started to go back, kind of like, when you get into like music and you're like, oh, who's their influence and who's their influence. and I started to investigate a little bit because it was so telling and it was so powerful, especially like the original. I think Saw is one of the best movies that has ever been made. I know, but it's because
No,
it
the
was
first
so
one's
simple.
really good. The first one is really, really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, the first one was an actual game. Everything else was just pretty much like, I guess, gore porn and stuff. But that
Right.
first one it made me think about things differently. And
Sure.
so, like, a lot of times sci-fi, like good sci-fi is just, amplifying a sociological situation.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw what horror could do, is like Saw was what are you willing to do to survive or to allow somebody else that you love to live?
Mm-hmm.
And that idea, that question was like shocking to me, is like, this is badass. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I always kind of looked at it in that kind of way. I mean, I look at it, that question is very much like Nolan and like his Batmans, is that they're
Mhm.
just a philosophical idea or question. And that's where I got really into horror, because one, you can, it's very localized. And then, I got in, Romero and some of the classic stuff,
Right.
and, and then going back and looking at where these things come from and why. And I was, there's so much more to them than I thought. And so it kind of like started peeling an onion.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think that's the kind of stories we like to tell, like with some relevance to the society and like some element of reality. I know that's why we picked like 28 Days Later as like
Mhm.
one of the levels, because I think that film really influenced us as well.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna get there. So obviously you've both kind of come around on horror, especially whenever it's posing some kind of social commentary, philosophical question, or is just a fun kind of mystery or something to figure
Yeah.
out. So where
Like Galen Tucker?
Oh yeah, like Galen Tucker. Yeah. That's our next project, something along those lines. But yeah, we,
That's awesome.
stuff like that. And like, I love the Evil Dead, like, and
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2. I remember seeing that in the theater and just laughing hysterically.
Oh, that was one of our first dates. We went to Vegas to go watch the stage play.
Yes.
Evil Dead the musical. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so where do the zombies really come in? So at what point in your kind of creative process were you like, okay, I want to write something that has maybe a little bit of a horror slant, I'm going with zombies?
So like, I was kind of trying to do, the monster in the house type of a situation.
Okay.
Like, write something along those lines. I'm not really good at ghosts or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to do something with, like somebody manipulating other people through use of drugs. And creating some sort of like biohazard type of thing. But that was kind of like the original idea. And I was like, God, I love zombies, but it's like, The Walking Dead's on. It's like, as soon as you figure out the zombies, then it's like a thing. And then I read The Girl with All the Gifts.
Gotcha.
And once I read that, because it's a fungus, right? That's a spoiler alert. That it changed, and the zombies themselves like evolved in some way. And I was like, oh snap, I can make them what I want on different things. And then once that started to happen, I was like, oh, I could do this and then this and then this and then a whole like zombie apocalypse thing where different zombies are fighting each other and trying to kill them. It's like, it just becomes this whole like crazy zombie like porn thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think the core idea of like the horde was relevant to like the veteran story we also wanted to tell. Because like my husband's a veteran, and we're pretty involved in like the veteran community, and like having that aspect of like a multitude of people like literally out of their mind coming to this party and becoming something else was like also central to that story.
Well, and that comes around that I really I wanted to put people. One of the things I really wanted to do was put people that aren't in like horror movies in horror movies. Because like my lead character Oz, he's like former Green Beret, and I have there's this whole like subset of like videos of like what would veterans do in a horror movie, and they're really funny because and because they shoot them or they it's like get away from Michael Myers with the machete, those kind of things. And I wanted to bring people that are generally not I don't want to say underserviced or anything, but they're just a little bit more character, and there's a little bit more to them than just like, oh, we're just college kids. It's like each character is dealing. And the other thing is that because they're immune to these drugs that are being used on the rest of the people, they're a little bit broken because they have to be immune to this drug. So there's they're on other things. They're taking like, PTSD medications and, Adderall and lithium. And so these people are generally like underserved as like, they're just kind of the broken people that I think that we all are.
Yeah. Even our jock is an African-American football player who like blew out his knee.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like a giant left tackle who has now just lost his, ticket to the NFL because his knee is destroyed. So it's like this person who, they've been used by the system, and that's kind of what Terrence and Oz both signify in different ways of these people that have been used by the elites in some other way. And so that's like a foreshadow of being used by the elites in this graphic horror way.
Right.
And I think that's also why we choose zombies.
Yeah.
Is that like really if you want to take it so far as to say like the 1% is turning us all into a massive horde of partiers who just drink and consume.
Yeah. And so that's, and who can see through that and how they're being used. And I just loved that, the complexity of it, but then the simplicity of the horror aspect of zombies, deal with it. And, and also that it's localized too, that it's not a pandemic and it's not the entire world. It's literally, I have to get out of this giant bunker. And it's like a giant safe room while dealing with all of these other things while playing a game and having to answer riddles and having to answer, figure out puzzles while being attacked by the people that did this to you and your fellow people. And that's kind of where I really found it exciting.
Yeah, that is awesome. I think it sounds freaking sweet. I can't wait to check it out. I mean, you guys go ahead and just let us know like where we can find it, if what we're looking at for release dates and things like that, or just how to stay up to date with the project.
Sure, yeah. You can find us on Instagram at The Zombie Game. And right now we're posting like our progress on our artwork, and we're hoping to have it out for 2020. Nice. So in the meantime, you can check out what our artist Pablo is doing, and
that dude is absolutely sweet. We didn't think that this was going to be the direction at all, and when we saw his art, we were like, we have to do this because it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be black and white and very simple, that kind of a thing, but he is like, he paints this atmosphere that is just shockingly amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I've creeped a little bit on the Instagram, just checking out some of the work that has been posted, and yeah, I mean this. For are you guys? I'm assuming you're self-publishing. Is that correct?
It depends. Like I have some connections still
Cool.
to some of the people I work with, but we want to make sure that we bring it to the public correctly. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also work with a group out here and called USVAA, which is United States Veterans Artists Alliance, and they just
Cool.
started publishing graphic novels and novels through for that veterans have written.
Yeah,
So
that's really neat.
we might go that way. We might go with a smaller publisher.
Yeah.
We're just trying to figure that out right now.
Well, yeah, for a creator-owned title, it is. I mean, from the progress that you've shared on Instagram, it is looking really, really cool. I actually used to work at a comic book store, and so I've seen kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of indie comics compared to big budget comics, compared to the Marvel DC Image giants, and I think that so far it looks really sweet. Knowing more about the story, I'm even more interested than I was before. So I'm super excited for you guys.
That's nice.
Yeah,
we didn't scare away our first reader.
No, it sounds awesome. I'll definitely be buying a copy. That is for sure. You have a reader, at least one.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'm just really excited to check out the zombie game. And you guys have been great guests. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too.
Great.
Bye. That is pretty freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of layers to that story, and as he's kind of peeling them back, I guess I would say that I am kind of a zombie connoisseur at this point in my life, if you can be such a thing. And so I'm seeing elements of even some zombie video games, as some of the kind of the deeper character cuts is stuff that I think that we kind of got a little bit from like Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, but obviously Valve never went.
Coach, best
as
guy.
Coach,
Coach
it's
is the
exactly
best.
who I was thinking
If you
about.
don't pick Coach, get out of my face.
It's exactly who I was thinking about, and just that we never got. They did that. They kind of were flirting with that idea of like horror tropes, maybe kind of with a twist, or people that you don't normally see in the tropes being put into the scenario.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of getting to see that with more of a narrative built in. Obviously, with a graphic novel compared to a always online multiplayer game, there's definitely going to be more narrative built in. So I think it'll be really, really cool to see where that all ends up. Okay, so now I would like to talk a little bit about the new Five Nights at Freddy's game.
Ooh.
So would you, as our resident PC expert, give us just a rundown of what Five Nights at Freddy's is?
It's a spooky horror game where you sit in an office and stuff scares you on a screen. I don't know. It's evolved so much over like the last 3 games, 4 games,
Yeah,
5 games. I don't even know,
something
man.
like that.
It's basically just this big old story. Like you're supposed to be this night guard shiftman at a pizza place, and then there's animatronics. It's supposed to be like sort of like Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese or the old Showbiz Pizza.
Yeah, but they're all just trying to murder you for some reason. There's eventually story in there. I
Yeah.
watched Markiplier play it a little bit.
Right.
So you got a little bit of the story, but most of him just screaming at boxes. It was great.
Oh yeah, and then that's kind of the crazy that you can get down in some really dark YouTube holes and Reddit holes of like fan theories and people trying to piece things apart and piece it together. And if anything that they're saying holds any weight to this story at all, it is a very dark story.
Yeah, I think it was like 3 where they were like, oh yeah, they put the dude inside the thing, and then it like was it lug nut, screw nut,
Right.
Screw whatever that dude.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's the old guard.
He's in the
He's
animatronic.
in the animatronic,
Yep.
and the animatronic's moving around on its own. Ooh, baby.
So
Hard pass.
there's a new game, Five Nights at Freddy's AR :
Hard pass.
Special Delivery.
No.
So it just entered early access. You can sign up for it now. When it launches, it will be free to play. This will be the first Five Nights at Freddy's game built for mobile. So I think all of the games have been ported to mobile, but they were built to be played on PC. And this will be the first one that's built for mobile. Obviously, it's called AR because it's using altered reality. This is the type of game made very popular by Pokemon Go. I don't know if they're going like the Niantic route of it being GPS and kind of geocaching based.
I don't know how / why they would.
Right. I don't either. But it seems that you use the altered reality technology and you're using your camera and the light on your camera. And it seems like there'll be a way that like you creep through your own dark house and then animatronics appear on your phone and you can zap them with the flash.
Got it.
With the light on your phone.
And then you're actually racing against your own phone's battery while the augmented reality kills your battery. I like it. That's just like so meta. That's like
That's true because there were batteries in the PC games too, right? Like batteries for like flashlights or like for different functions, I believe.
Like the very first one, like you had your limited power supply
right,
running off
right,
a generator, and so like
you
every
could
time
only
you turn
power
the light
certain
on
things
or
on.
like shut the doors, it would drain power.
Yeah, that's right. That's
but
right.
then like
there was a
the
power management.
Third one, you were like a little kid and he had a flashlight and like you had to shine it at your bed because there was spooky stuff. I don't really remember. Man.
Sure. So yeah, it sounds kind of interesting. It'll be out later this year for Android and iOS.
I'll probably download it, play it, and depending how good it is, I'll maybe keep going.
We don't get enough spooky games, I feel like, on mobile. So like, I'll probably give it a shot, even if I'm gonna hate it.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I gave that Harry Potter one a shot. That was rough.
All right, so I'm gonna move into our real world scary shit. So this is kind of a creepy, spooky thing. There's a New York ghost town. It's a ghost town, so there's no one there, but the graveyard continues to grow.
Okay.
So get this. Doodletown, New York. That's right.
Wait, Doodletown?
Doodletown.
I don't believe any of this anymore.
DOO.
Is this a Blues Clues episode?
TLE Town. Doodletown.
I see the clue.
Blue Skidoo. It is near Bear Mountain State Park in upstate New York. In 1964, the state government basically told everyone who lived in a lot of the towns around Bear Mountain, hey, there's this new ski resort coming in. You can either take the buyout or we're just going to condemn your house.
Classic eminent domain. Am I right, guys?
And, you know, after a while, slowly, all of the townsfolk kind of folded. Doodletown was the last to be closed. They kept on fighting.
Stay strong, doodlers.
And so what ended up happening is even after they did fold, they were able to keep the rights to the cemetery. They figured that this little tiny graveyard was enough out of the way that it wouldn't really interfere with the ski resort construction and all that. So the ski resort never happened.
Lit.
And all of these towns that were condemned to be built into a ski resort just became part of Bear Mountain State Park. But what's funny, or not funny, I guess just what's interesting, is that former residents of Doodletown that still hold, you know, their grave plots and still want to be buried in their home of Doodletown are still being buried there today, even though the town doesn't exist. There's no buildings. There's just this little graveyard out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. And they actually have had to, most former residents of Doodletown are cremated to make it easier for them to bury because there's nothing out there. So it's not like they're bringing machinery out there and like, right, exactly. And because of like space, they don't have to take up as much space because they have a very limited space that they were allowed to keep. And so they keep burying people up there at Bear Mountain State Park in what was Doodletown Cemetery. And an interesting thing is not this Halloween, but I guess a couple Halloweens ago, kind of the sort of spooky story about it is that some people from Doodletown one of their family members died. They were bringing, the ashes up to be buried in the cemetery, and it was around Halloween, and they noticed that all the gravestones had been decorated. There were all these like really pretty like lanterns hanging up everywhere, and this is a very small, tight-knit community. They're basically all family.
Are you talking about Coco 3? It sounds like Coco 3.
Basically. Wait, is there a Coco 2?
I mean, eventually. Let's be real.
And so they were just like, oh, this is weird. Apparently someone came out here and had their own little like Halloween Day of the Dead celebration, and none of us know who the fuck it was.
Dude, Sir Doodle
Sir Doodle
of Doodletown. The wilderness man gravekeeper.
I read that the rumor was that around the time of Revolutionary War, British soldiers would walk through singing and whistling Yankee Doodle, and that's where the name of Doodletown came from. But apparently that myth was busted because it was the founder's name. He was like a Dutch immigrant of some sort, and his name was like Doddle or something like that, and it eventually got
Doodle. Yeah.
Doodletown.
Doodletown. It's very American.
I know, right?
Going on down to Doodletown.
It just sounds like it still sounds like a kids' TV show.
Yeah. I have
Doodletown Central.
Doodletown in I don't know, a bear forest.
All right. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Eek Show. If you would like to be a guest on the Eek Show, because this is basically just a little party at my house where we love to talk about scary movies, and parties are just always better with VHS tapes.
Yes.
Parties are always better with people and guests. We love to have guests on the show. If you would like to be a guest, all you have to do is reach out to me at eekchannel.com. That is EEKCHANNEL, and we'll get it figured out. We are pretty booked up for the rest of the year. I can't believe 2019 is almost over.
It's true.
It's dwindling fast.
It's crazy.
So if you'd like to help out the show, you can rate, comment, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, do all the internet things, or if you don't want to do any of that, just tell a friend it's a cool show, and that's good enough for me. And whoop, whoop. Come on, iPad, wake up. Thank you guys so much for listening.
This has been a production of Eek Channel. We make spooky stuff for people like you. You can discover more content like this at eekchannel.com or find us on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. And don't be shy, we like making new friends. Thank you for tuning in, and stay eeky out there.